Oh, you're going to hold them? Okay. Hi, my name is Sydney Kessler. I'm with the Progressive Student Alliance, and I also want to point out that we are in another room because we were not allowed in here, and that we have plenty of questions because you said that progressives or leftists do not want to ask questions, but we are not allowed in this space but one person. So I would encourage you to invite them in here to ask those questions so that I'm not the only person asking my question. So, again, my name is Sydney Kessler, and I'm with.
Well, may I pause for a second? Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Are you not in here because someone said you can't come, or because you showed up late?
Well, we were late, right? But we were also told that.
Okay, just saying.
No. But we were also told that it started at 7:30. So that's also a little. We were told it starts at 7:30.
Well,
could you please ask your question?
All right.
But I do have my question, and I'm
Go for
not
it.
here to debate the room. So my question was, you said that the liberals run the state. You said that the liberals run the media, the school. I can't remember the other one, but you didn't say the state.
Well, I said Hollywood, academia, and media.
And media, but you didn't say the state. But you also mentioned earlier that in order to have balance, you should have different ideas. So if they don't run the state, how do we have power to leverage our ideas?
Well, I'm not saying, when you say run the state, you mean the state of Tennessee?
Well, you said the state, period. You said that the state, that Marxists or communists believe that the state should all have control, right?
Right.
And so if you are saying that, right, and then so to combat that argument means that both parties need to exist, right, and in the state realm to have control. So if we are not in the state and we are only in academia, we're only in school, media, Hollywood, then how do we have power or leverage other than those things?
Oh, I see. Gotcha. Well,
And how is that then not, right, the same state of fascism that you say exists if you admittedly say that the Republican or the whatever wing holds the majority of the state, or holds the state, period, right? Or holds that realm of control?
yes. So the question is basically this, and that is that am I arguing that progressives should be, who are dominant in academia and media, should somehow be excluded from the state? In other words, from governmental...
No, that wasn't my question. You said they were. Because you said that they dominate these spaces, which means they do not dominate the state space, right? And so if they do not dominate the state space, how is that then not fascist if you said fascism is to dominate the state space?
Right. So fascism is not one party controlling, in any democratic system, one party is going to win elections, correct? And if you look at American history, generally one party has dominated American politics, not only in a particular election, but typically for 30 or 40 years at a time. From the 1820s to 1860, the Democrats were the dominant party. By this I mean they didn't control everything, but they generally had one, if not both, houses of Congress and the presidency. From 1865 to 1932, the Republicans were the dominant party. From 1932 to 1980, the Democrats were the dominant party. Now, interestingly, from 1980 to 2016, American politics has been a draw. You've generally had divided government. Reagan was the president for 8 years in the 80s, Democratic Congress. Clinton was the president for 8 years in the 90s, Republican majorities in the House and the Senate. Obama is the president. He loses in the midterm election. A Republican takes both houses of Congress. This is why the 2016 election was so incendiary, because the left realized that not only was it about the presidency, but if Trump won, the Republicans would get both houses of Congress, and they might even get the court. Now, this is not fascism. This is called democracy, right? Because you're running for free elections.
Your argument, I'm sorry, your argument then is that the United States goes from being fascist to being unfascist and back and forth from one fascist of Democratic to Republican. That's
Okay.
your argument then, because that means to hold the state position. That's what you said. So I'm quoting what you said.
Right.
And then literally asking the question. So.
Okay. So listen to what I'm saying now, because I'm actually about to say what fascism is, and fascism is not winning an election.
You've already defined it.
Right, but I wanted to define it more clearly because you didn't get it, right? Because
I disagree with it. I'm using your definition to
no,
say that's incorrect.
everything.
So then you get to expound on what you've already defined.
Right, because everything in the state and nothing outside the state. This is what it means. It means that the government
So are you counteracting what you said at
I'm not denying what I said. It clearly needs a little more elaboration. That's all I'm doing, okay? So if you look at actual fascist regimes like Mussolini's Italy or Nazi Germany, the government controlled the private sector. You had a private sector, but the government told it what to do. Now notice we have that in America today. Obamacare is like that. In Obamacare, we don't have true socialism because the government hasn't nationalized the healthcare industry. We have private hospitals, we have private hospices, we have private health insurance. But notice, the government tells them what to do. The government sets the prices. The government decides who's eligible. That is actually a fascist policy. Okay, now, fascism, though, meant government control of all private industry, and it also meant government control of your life. So fascist governments want to regulate the lives of their citizens. America's based on the opposite, i.e. anti-fascist principle, limited government. Limited government means that whoever wins the election doesn't matter because there's certain things the government can't do. The government can't tell you what to say. The government can't tell you what religion to practice. In fact, the government can't take your money. The United States is a society where, imagine if 99% of us decided that Steve Jobs and his family are too rich. They've got $10 billion. What do they need $10 billion for? So we are going to take a vote to go and confiscate $9 billion of their 10 and spend it on things we think are important. We can't do that. Why? Because he earned that money. He didn't steal it. He made iPhones. You don't have to buy them. You went to the store and stood in line at Apple. You skipped class to go get the Apple iPhone 8 or whatever. So there's no theft, there's no injustice, and so the state does not have the power to take that guy's stuff. That's fascism is the argument that the state does. And I'm simply saying that the progressive left favors increased centralized power in this country over the economy, if not over citizens' lives, and that has a fascist streak to it. Okay?
First, I'd like to say thank you for coming out, and I just appreciate this is a free event that I actually had the ability to come here. I wouldn't call myself a Republican. I'm a constitutionalist. That's what I describe myself as. And the Second Amendment particularly is probably the most important to me because it gives us the ability to defend all other amendments. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of the free state, the right of the people to bear arms shall not be infringed. Why do you think that certain areas, not necessarily of just government, just why do you think people in general who most of the time have zero to little knowledge at all of firearms seem to be the ones so heavily and vehemently against them as a whole, not just, 30-round magazines or all these other things, just the whole entire ideology of a firearm? Why do you feel as if it is so combated?
Well, first of all, I want to affirm a point you said a moment ago, which is that the Second Amendment does not exist for hunting. It's not ultimately about the fact that some people like to go shoot deer and they need sports weapons to do that. The real purpose of the First Amendment is to protect the citizens from their own government, from the risk of government tyranny. Okay? That's why it's there. That's why it's there. Now, the progressives want to dominate the state, and they want to have increasing state control over the lives of citizens. Having an armed citizenry is a major check on that. And I believe that ultimately that's what drives gun control. Because think about it. What gun control policy could have prevented Las Vegas? Even Dianne Feinstein said, I can't even think of any. Number two, what purpose is served by taking guns away from law-abiding citizens if your point is actually to prevent non-law-abiding citizens from killing them? So I think that the gun debate has sort of lost its moorings and rationality. I mean, I don't own a gun. In fact, I'm a felon. I can't own a gun. So I'm gun-free. Progressives will be very happy to learn. I think my wife is trying to speak up in the back row there. She actually has her CHL in Texas. Many people don't realize, but she's my security. Bottom line of it is I'd like to see a rational gun debate. And the reason that the gun issue, the left relies on, remember Rahm Emanuel's never let a good crisis go to waste. So whenever there's some panic, they actually hope to ride the panic to pass a law that may even seem senseless 3 weeks later, but you did it in a panic. The use of crisis is, by the way, the fascists were like experts at this. They used the Reichstag fire, was what Hitler used to get the Enabling Act passed, which gave him essentially supreme power over Nazi Germany. He didn't have it before that. The parliament gave it to him, and he used some say a manufactured crisis, that's debated by scholars, but nevertheless a crisis in order to claim that power. Okay, next question.